Okay, so welcome to the very first episode of Talk About Strange. We have a special guest here tonight. His name is Chris, and Chris has had a couple of Sasquatch experiences. And Chris, why don't you say hi to the crowd?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thanks for having me on, Ken.
You're more than welcome, Chris. I'm excited to have you here, and some of your experiences have, as you know, have piqued my interest, and I'm excited to have you here. So, Chris, we're here in Northern Michigan. Are you from Northern Michigan, or?
I am. I was born and raised here.
I see. So getting down to business, I know you had a couple of experiences with Sasquatch or Bigfoot, as other people know them as. What got you started with your interest, and what got you started into the realm of Sasquatch and Bigfoot?
Well, I believe it was my experience with the Sasquatch.
So that's so you didn't have any other experience. So nothing as a kid, nothing.
No, I mean growing up, I'd see shows on TV, and Harry and Henderson's.
It was a great show.
It's a good show, yeah.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah, it's kind of what I would do. I think if I ever met a Sasquatch, I would take him right in.
Take him right in. Yeah. Big cuddly guy, right?
Yeah. So take me back to the experience you had. Were you in Northern Michigan or another state when you had this?
I was in Northern Michigan, and it would have been the hunting season of 2013.
Oh, not too long ago.
No, not too long ago. Well, our tribal season up here opens a little earlier than the state season. I believe it was the 27th of September.
Oh.
I was heading out to my spot for the first time in the season, and I'm headed down this old dirt road, this dead end road, and there's a couple. You get down to the end of it. I got down there to park, and there's a couple old tin barns that I parked next to, and there's an open area and an old airstream on the other end, and it's kind of just real secluded way back, and it's almost like a field back in the middle of a swamp. So it's kind of an interesting area. I grew up hunting there.
So swampy and woodsy and fields all mixed in.
All mixed in, yeah. And so I get down that evening, and I get parked, and I head down to my spot, and where I hunt there's a trail that's about a half mile long, back in through the swamp, and it opens up into a big field.
Okay.
Out in that field there were some cedars out there, groups of cedars, and I thought, I was looking for a place to sit, and so I decided to bunker down there for the night and watch for some deer and just enjoy it.
All sounds pretty typical so far.
Yeah, it was a beautiful evening.
And anything unusual to that point, or just kind of?
No, there was just a lot of wildlife out and about. There were some deer, and I could hear just the birds and animals all over the place, squirrels jumping around,
and you said you were hunting deer, is that right?
I was hunting deer. Yeah, and I'd watched them come out and play around out in the field, and it all began at after dark. I sat there just enjoying the evening. The stars were out. It was just a beautiful full moon night.
Okay.
And
so it was a full moon.
I believe it was a full moon. From remember, it was just really bright. A lot of stars out. And I'm just sitting there enjoying myself, and I hear some coyotes just back off in the distance, maybe just a few hundred yards away.
Okay.
Back in the swamp that in front of me, off the field line, and they're just barking like crazy, and I'm listening to them, enjoying it, and trying to figure out what they're up to, and I listen out, sudden some other coyotes start barking off to the right of me, and they're howling away, and then some other ones chime up here on the left, and then before I know it, I'm surrounded by coyotes.
Oh wow.
Making all this racket, and it went on, and it was like, they're up to something. I didn't know what they're up to. I was sitting there trying to figure this out, and all of a sudden, amongst all the noise and all the yipping and howling, I hear this loud, just this screech this howly screech like never heard before. I mean, just overpowered everything in the woods. And,
Wow.
everything just went silent at that moment.
All the wildlife
wildlife.
just.
I didn't hear a chirp. I mean, it just everything went silent.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard it, my skin started crawling. You can imagine.
I think mine would too. Yeah.
I've never heard anything like it in my life. And immediately I was trying to figure this out. Naturally, you're trying to, what in the world is this thing I'm hearing? And I thought it could have been a cat. Maybe possibly a mountain lion. There's been some sightings around the area.
Sure.
And so I packed up. I waited around a little bit, and I got my stuff together. Still, it was just dead silence. And I started to walk across the field and headed up to the trail. And
Sure.
And I'm listening, and I hear some splashing around back there, some crashing back in the woods, something walking, and it didn't sound like a deer.
Walking as in
something walking back in the
bipedal walking kind of thing.
Yeah. It almost sounded human-like. It was obviously a big. It didn't sound like it was on 2 feet. Is what I'm trying to say. And so I'm still thinking this is I'm thinking this is a big cat. I'm nervous, and
Sure, your mind's
my mind's rationalizing that.
Yeah.
So I get up to my truck and
so you made it back. After you heard those the scream, I guess that kind of you probably would have stayed there otherwise, but after you heard that,
I heard that. I started getting a little nervous, and
time to pack it in.
Time to pack it in. I didn't know what was going on out there. I headed down the trail and got back to the truck and I let out I thought, well, I'm going to try to mimic that sound to see if I get some kind of response out of whatever that is.
Oh, boy.
Try to figure out what this is, and so I made a sound trying to mimic what I heard.
Sure.
And I didn't hear anything, and I waited a minute, and I let out another one, and I started hearing this running through the woods, coming through the swamp area, coming like in the angle towards my truck. So I wasn't nervous. I jumped in. I mean, you can imagine.
Sure.
I had everything going on, the chills, skin crawling, and I'm ready to get. So I got my truck and I headed home, and I shared my experience with my father, my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And they said, well, just like I thought. They said, well, it sounds like it could be possibly a mountain lion. They dealt with them before. My brother-in-law was an avid bear hunter.
Sure.
And so I thought, okay, well, I just got to be careful, when I'm out there, that I'm aware, and if I see this thing, to stay clear of it. So
you bet.
So I went out the next night, and it had a little different experience. I walked back to the same area, but I went to the other end of this field. At the end of this field, there was this great big. I remember there's this huge maple tree, and I thought, man, that's kind of a nice little area back there by this maple tree. There was it looked like an old frame of a car, an old work truck.
Sure.
Sitting back there. So I got back there and sat up against that, and I was deer hunting, so I started calling deer with my voice, and I heard this something walking up behind me. It was a little earlier in the evening before the sun went down.
Okay. How'd that make you feel?
I was getting a little nervous because I was getting a little freaked out from this cat stuff I heard. So,
sure.
I sat there for a little while, and I didn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden I heard it sounded like a breathing, like a real deep breath.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, and that was it had to be probably maybe 15 yards, 20 yards off. I could just hear it. It was a ways off, and I could hear this breathing, and I thought, man, I'm still thinking about this cat, and I'm grunting. I think, the possibility of it being a buck could be just hanging out there, and
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm calling away, and nothing comes out, and I don't see anything come out. And so I waited for about, it was getting dark, and I couldn't hunt any longer.
Sure.
About 20 minutes after dark, and I got up, and got my stuff together, and I stood up, and I started walking out, and I walked past that big tree I mentioned earlier.
Okay, the maple.
The maple tree. And I got past the tree, I don't know, maybe 10 yards, and all of a sudden I heard this noise, and I turned around, and this branch is whipping flying at the back of my leg, and it hit me in the back of the calf by my ankle.
Wow.
And this thing was,
so it hit your ankle. Did that hurt?
It didn't really hurt. It just kind of just came right down on, just bumped it.
Interesting.
And the first thought in my mind, out there was, there's something up in that tree, and I was thinking the cat still, So,
a lot of cats throw.
I thought maybe you jumped one branch to the other, and it came flying. I'm trying to make the rational stuff.
Sure. Yep.
And
there goes the brain again. Yeah.
Yeah, there goes the brain. So I walk out into the field, and I go to turn my headlamp on, and as soon as I go to turn my headlamp on, I hear this screech, the same thing I heard the night before.
Oh boy.
And instantly my skin started crawling. I thought, I don't know, that's what that is, but that's that's a big creature.
Wow.
Here. And so at that point I was very nervous, and
that screech there, was that closer yet, or was that
that was closer yet. I was sitting, I was probably within maybe 50 yards.
Wow.
Of where I was sitting, and it was right where I was in that area.
And can you just describe the screech or the sound that it
was
made?
like almost like I can't. It's hard to explain. It's like a howl and a screech all in one. It was kind of like just this really with this tail on it. Like a high pitched thing at the end. And
wow.
So I kind of boogied out there. I thought, I'm not, whatever this is. I know animals. If you act nervous, or scared, they could come after you.
Sure.
So I just kind of tried to play it cool and just kept walking fast and.
Yeah, cool as a cucumber. Yeah.
Cucumber.
Here we go. So you're heading back.
So I'm headed back, and I heard something walking around back in there, and on my way out, and off in the distance, and so I got back, and I thought, well, I'm gonna do this noise again, and just messing around, you see what kind of response I get, again.
Sure.
And so I did it, and I heard way off in the distance, back where I was sitting, I heard another, like a howl.
Okay.
Yep. So but a different, like from another, from a different. I'm sorry. I'm back at the car now at this point.
Okay.
And I heard it way back off where I was. I heard the same noise I'd heard before.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I'm at this point, I just got hit in the ankle with something, and I'm thinking there's something else. There's something out here.
Sure.
And,
something's not
nothing I've experienced before. And, so I was real nervous at that point, and I gave it a day, and I came back, and I talked to my father about it, and he said, well, the best thing is, if you want to hunt out there, is you just got to go figure out what it is, and kind of face whatever it is and know what it is. And so
so your father didn't offer up any, well, maybe it could be something unknown or anything like that. He said,
didn't. Yeah, he just said, you'll figure it out. Just go.
Yep.
So
good dad.
Yeah. So it was I waited a day, and I went back out there, and this was where it really got strange.
This is your third trip out.
This is my third trip out there. I wasn't going to go back out. I was a little nervous, and I thought, well, I love this area. I've hunted out here all my life.
Sure.
And so I went out that night, and I got out there, and it started getting real overcast, and it was it was foggy, and it was
sounds kind of eerie.
Eerie, yeah. It was, and it was sprinkling mist in a little bit. So I had a rifle, so I thought, well, I can still hunt, and so I went out, and I sat in the same field. It's a huge field. I was off in this other corner where I'd seen deer come out earlier.
Okay.
And so I decided to go sit over in this other corner, and there was a big like group of cedars, like it made a big bush, a bushy area right in the field. So I kind of nestled back up in those, where just my eyes were exposed, and
sure, pretty typical hunting position.
Yep, and I stayed pretty well covered, and I thought, well, it's a good spot. I sat down, and it wasn't too long after that I saw this little doe come out, and she was playing out in the field, running around eating and stuff, and and I'm watching her, and then I start hearing something coming up behind me, and I'm hoping, it's some, this is more deer, and
sure,
I hear this walking around behind me, and nothing came out. And meanwhile, I'm watching this deer. I look back out this deer in the field, and she looks right at me. It looked like she was looking right at me.
Okay.
And she did that, this thing with her head. She's looking back, and she's stomping her foot, her front foot. And she just took off like a bat out of hell across that field, the opposite direction. And I thought, what in the world? Like, how, she can't be, there's no way she can see me. There must be a big buck coming out here. She's intimidated by or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I hear us walking around, and I noticed that, there's just a little bit of something in the air that just a little, this different kind of like a smell. And it was something I had not smelled before. It was like real like a musky man odor, kind of a smell, and
kind of musky,
and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this is strange. It just kind of came up upon me, and I was been sitting there all night, and it started getting dark early, so I thought,
sure,
well, I'm gonna get out of here,
sure.
And it's starting to rain a little harder, and I start walking across this field and head back to the trailhead, and I noticed that I hear this like walking alongside me. And when I took a step, I hear this splashing.
Oh boy!
And I hear this splashing, and just in the tree line, it's a really thick area, and I hear this, I hear these, every once in a while a branch little break, and then I hear, water, like something stepping in water.
Oh wow!
And I walk along, and when I stop,
I mean, it's something you wouldn't hear a deer do.
No, whatever this was walking along right alongside me in the wood line.
Bipedal, kind of 2-foot steps.
2-footed steps, and I kept hearing this. I'd stop, and it would stop, and I'm thinking I might be hearing an echo off my feet, and it wasn't, because I could hear it. It was splashing through water. I wasn't.
Wow.
And so I got up, and I'm a nervous wreck. I'm like, this thing, whatever it is very close to me at this point. And I get up to the corner, and I knew it had to be within probably 25, 30 yards off into the woods at the least.
Okay.
So whatever it was, it's making me.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I'm getting a little.
I can tell. I can just imagine. Here you are. Your third night out here. It's not like you can just poo-poo this off as well, it was just the wind blowing. Here you are, your third night. You've heard very odd things 3 nights in a row, and now you're hearing footsteps following me.
Yeah. And I get up to the corner of this field where this trail starts, right? And you got to remember that the rain had kind of tapered off, and it's kind of, I'm kind of freaked out as it is. It's eerie because I don't know what this thing is.
Sure.
What's in the back there watching me and stalking me. So I stop at the edge of the trail, and I'm looking down the trail, and it's just dark and hazy looking, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have to do it. I'm walking through the middle of a swamp right now on this trail for about a half mile. And so I start walking down the trail, and I hear a couple steps, and so it start up again. Jeez. And it's getting closer, and I'm about probably 10 yards up the trail, and I hear a crash from behind me. I turn around, and I see this shadow of something cross the trail behind me.
Oh boy. So now it's on the other side of you.
Yeah, now I'm walking. I start walking a little faster, and I'm hearing stuff on the other side of the trail, something walking alongside me. And I'm getting really freaked out at this point. I don't know what it is, and it's obviously, coming up on me. And so I'm listening to it.
I got to tell you, I think I would have, I think you're a pretty brave guy, Chris. Yeah. So, wow.
Yeah, I just, I didn't know what to do. I knew I had to figure out what this was if I want to go out there, because I thought, it's out here, it's found. I want to see what this thing is.
Sure.
So I walk up the trail a little farther, and there's a little clearing. And this, I I stood there by the clearing. I knew this clearing was there, and I got my flashlight, my headlight lamp ready.
Right.
And I'm standing there just waiting for this thing to, whatever it is, to come walking by that open area.
Yeah.
And I don't hear anything. It just stops. And so I turn my headlamp on after a minute, and I'm looking around back there. Nothing, no eye shine of any kind, any movement.
Wow.
And so I turn my lamp off, and I get ready. I take a few steps to leave, and I hear this loud crack. Like someone had taken a baseball bat and just smacked the side of a tree with it.
Oh, the classic tree knock.
Just, yeah. And I jumped out of my socks, man. I had the chills. I think I had tears running down my face.
Oh,
I didn't know
goodness.
what in the world. So I boogied on out, and I got up to my truck. And while I was, I was hunting, so I had my rifle with me. So I went to put my rifle away. In the case, I opened the truck up. And I had it all laid out. And while I'm putting my rifle away, I hear this walking. I hear this splashing going across the road that I just
there he
come
goes.
down, and it's dark.
Yeah.
And that mud puddle, that big mud puddle where the splashing was, is not very far away at all. It's probably within 10, 15 yards away.
Wow.
And I hear it crossed through that puddle and was coming on around the woods behind where my truck was parked.
Jeez.
So I realized that I had put my gun back. I had put my keys in my gun case, and and when I put it away, and I was looking for my keys, and so I had to pull it back out. I'm a nervous wreck, and
yeah, you're
pull it
shaking.
back out, and
yeah.
I get my keys out finally and go to put it back, and
right.
So I thought, what am I going to do here? Like, I really want to see what this is, and it's very close. What can I do?
Curiosity killed the cat. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So I've got my keys in the ignition.
Right.
My door is cracked, and I had carried a sidearm with me. At the time.
Okay.
For safety reasons, in the woods. I had that. So I put my rifle in. I had I got my headlamp out, and my pistol. I had it because I didn't know what this thing was. If it was going to attack me or what.
Sure.
When
yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to do that noise that I heard. That's the only thing I could think to do.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing.
Brave soul. Yeah.
So I walk around the front side of this barn, and by that time I knew this thing was on the back side of that barn, just out of the woods. I could hear where an area it was.
And yet you're still
and I didn't realize
headed back there.
Yeah, and so I do this noise, this howl like I had heard, and I didn't hear anything, and so I did it again, and the second time I did it, oh man, I heard that back of that barn like someone had punched it. I heard the tin just smack.
Wow.
And I don't know, I get all emotional.
Yeah. Did you?
So
yeah. Wow.
I heard that smack, and I heard the splashing. There was a creek running alongside these garages.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I heard the splash. I knew whatever it was right there on the other side of that barn, and I ran out to that opening where I was telling you earlier, where the airstream was out in that field.
Yeah.
And I looked out in that field, and I held my headlamp up and had my pistol drawn, and I saw this thing. It was huge, on 2 feet, running as fast as anything I've ever seen run in my life.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was moving.
On 2 feet.
And 2 feet. And I'll never forget. I mean, this thing had to be, I'm just guessing, it had to be over 8 feet tall. The chest, from what I saw from the side view, the chest cavity was massive on him.
Wow.
And I just remember seeing this hair just going by in muscle definition with, and with hair on top of it.
Wow.
Like the thing. And this thing ran by me, and I was just frozen. I didn't know even what to think.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I'll bet.
I was in shock.
You weren't thinking shoot, or you weren't.
No, I didn't. I didn't, and I probably wouldn't have.
Mhm.
Something was attacking me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I just, I was just blown. I was blown away. I just didn't know what I, just experienced. The first thing I thought,
Wow.
was, wow, was that a Bigfoot? A Sasquatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went. I loaded up. I didn't hear anything. I didn't stick around very long. You can imagine.
Yeah.
I got in my car and I drove home. I got home and I just broke down, told me the story. And
Who did you tell the story to first?
I told my father.
Uh-huh.
And, I called him and I called my brother-in-law and I said, "You don't believe what I just experienced."
That was kind of an emotional story for you at the time.
Very, very emotional. I up until the last year I hadn't gone back out there, hunting or anything, because it was just
Had enough of that.
It's been 2
Yeah. Yeah.
It just every time I'd go by, it'd make my skin would crawl, and I do a route. I deliver some of the fish.
Okay.
To another town nearby.
Sure.
And every time I drive by that spot, I get teared up even just driving by it, because I just that experience of experiencing that.
Yeah. Something you'll never forget.
I'll never forget.
For heaven's sakes.
It's life changing, really. I mean, to know that there's something out there, more than us that we don't know about or hear about as much. So
sure, very very true. And for all the video watchers, I'm putting up a photo of a picture I took in this same region not too long ago, and you'll see I'll show both the regular photo and then the blown up version. I think you'll very clearly see what appears to be a face of the Sasquatch. So I wanted to throw that in there too, if you're watching this on video. But Chris, what a story! Wow, I got to admit, I'm not surprised that you don't hunt there anymore. Not at all. That is just an incredible story. I mean that, as far as percentage wise, so very very few people have ever experienced such a thing. So it must, I mean that must make you feel, and I'm sure you probably don't run around telling a lot of people, because a lot of folks are gonna laugh or not believe you. I should say.
And, I know what I saw, and I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I just it was an experience I had that I'll.
I have to ask you. I don't want to interrupt, but when you saw it running away from you at that point, would you say it was black or brown or dark in
color?
From
what I saw, through the lighting, it was dark. It was like maybe a dark brown color. A dark. It was definitely, I would think, like a brown. It wasn't black like you'd see like a black bear. It was
sure.
It was
and the $64,000 question, everybody, did you see the face?
I can say I did not see the face.
Uh-huh.
On this one.
I
saw a side profile.
Right? Did you?
Side profile and just the back end when he was.
Right. And how many feet away were you? Would you guess he was across the river by the time you?
He would cross the river, yeah. And he at that point, from where he had crossed the river to where I see him, he was literally within probably 7 or 8 yards from where I was standing.
Yeah.
And when I seen him running across the field, he was approximately I'd say probably about 15 yards away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's close.
Very, very close. Yeah.
And you're intuitively calling him a he.
I don't know. I feel like it. I don't know. I call him he.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can see why. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that you're spot on with that. But who knows, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But what a crazy story. Well, let me ask you this: would you there's a lot of TV shows now and Finding Bigfoot and a whole host of different television programs regarding Bigfoot. But would you say that would you agree that there are now more and more sightings now more than ever? Or do you think a lot of that could be explained off with the technology and the ability that we have now to spread the word?
I think there's been sightings throughout history. I think that people are just more vocal about sharing their experiences. I think maybe some of these shows coming out, more people coming out talking about it, has opened up the door for people to really, to open their minds and start talking about their experience. And
good call. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and you said you alluded that you too are Native, and isn't it true that the Native Americans have talked about the Sasquatch since the beginning of time?
It is true. Yes, we do have a lot of stories in our with our ancestors have told us.
Interesting. And so, do you have any relatives that may have seen or witnessed a Sasquatch as well, or?
I may have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I believe, I come from a long line of
yeah, that I'm interested to find out. You got to dig a little deeper there with the family. That's going to be an interesting topic on itself. Well, let me ask you this too. Now, where do you think all of this is going? If this is kind of a curveball question for you, but I mean, why? How? A lot of folks just can't wrap their brain around the possibility of something being in the woods that no one has noticed for all these years. But if they are, in my opinion, starting to show up more and more, why, and where do you think this is going? Where do you think this is going?
I don't have an exact answer. I know that I don't know. I do believe that they do want to be seen by certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's I had to believe there's a reason behind it. I'd just like to figure that out. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Yeah.
You hear these experiences. As after my experience, I've looked more into it and have got, been really intrigued by the Sasquatch and
yeah, sure.
And I don't know. It's been life changing for me, and
I can
think
bet.
I think that they do have a purpose, of course, like anything in a message, what the reason they're here and why they're presenting themselves to more and more people in recent days.
Sure.
So I'm excited and to see what we find out.
You bet.
And how they communicate with us.
I am too, Chris. Last final question before we wrap this up. Would you welcome another experience like that or similar to that, or have you had enough?
I would. I don't feel
interesting.
I don't feel threatened anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The more I
mm-hmm.
Look into it, I have gone back out to that spot this past year, and I feel at peace. And
awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome, Chris. I welcome you back anytime. If you run into another story like this, or from someone else that you'd like to share, or anything else, we'd love to have you back on, and we really appreciate you coming in here tonight and sitting with us. This is fantastic, and I that's an emotional story, and I know it means a lot for you to share that with others. But I think ultimately it'll do other people well. I think they'll embrace your story and maybe help bring their story out too if they had such a thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Good night.